So, hello everyone and welcome to our service. I'm Louise Reeve, the chairperson at Newcastle on Tyne Unitarians. Welcome to the Spring Miscellany service. We begin, as always, by saying aloud the values that unite our community, Newcastle on Tyne Unitarians. As free thinkers, we do not have a statement of what we all believe, because what we do have is a statement of the values we hold in common as we journey together. We welcome all who seek the meaning of life, who believe that human spirituality is wider than any one tradition and deeper than any one set of opinions. With a respect for our Christian origins, we speak to explore truths from all sources. Our fellowship gives us strength and encouragement in daily living. We also seek to make a positive difference in our world, and I'll be talking later on about a charity I'd like to encourage us all to consider supporting if we feel able to. But firstly, I will now light our chalice. These words are from Dr. Clur Mukim from the Unitarian Union of North East India. This is the chalice lighting for May 2021 from the International Council of Unitarians and Universalists. Divine source of creation and enlightenment, this chalice is lit in the presence of your wonderful vastness, to help us stay grounded in your eternal light. We gratefully acknowledge the presence of the divine in our lives and give thanks for everything within and around us that has shaped our individual lives and as a spiritual community. May our lives find purpose, meaning and peace as we continue to grow in our thought, work and journey here, now and always. May it be so. And we're now going to have our first hymn, which is number 66, How Wonderful This World of Thine. So we're now going to have our first reading, which is going to be by Joe Hooper from the biblical text, Song of Songs, also known as the Song of Solomon. Thank you, Joe. You will need to unmute.
Yeah. This reading is from a book of the Old Testament, the Jewish Bible, known as the Song of Songs or the Song of Solomon, though not written by him, we think. It's a love poem set in the springtime. Allegorically, it can be understood as the soul longing to be united to God, the beloved. The voice of my beloved. Behold, he comes leaping upon the mountains, bounding over the hills. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Behold, there he stands behind our wall, gazing in at the windows, looking through the lattice. My beloved speaks and says to me, arise, my love, my dove, my fair one, and come away. For behold, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone, the flowers appear on the earth, the time of pruning has come, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The fig tree puts forth its figs, and the vines are in blossom. They give forth fragrance. Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away. O my dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the covert of the cliff, let me see your face. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet, and your face is comely. Catch us the foxes, the little foxes that spoil the vineyards, for our vineyards are in blossom. My beloved is mine, and I am his. He pastures his flock among the lilies until the day breathes and the shadows flee. Turn, my beloved, be like a gazelle or a young stag upon rugged mountains. And when you have caught the beloved, you can say the Our Father. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
And we will now have our next reading. This is going to be Spring and Words, which was written by Frank Walker, and Ben MacLeod is going to read it.
Spring and Words. We meet together at a time when the earth is renewing herself peacefully, marvelously, victoriously. No power on earth may push back this triumphant tide of life. Truly the light is sweet, and a pleasant thing it is for our eyes to behold the sun. As we respond to the joyful rhythm of this season, we are grateful that we ourselves are part of this great and glorious ordering. We know that we are maintained by the energy that awakens in a myriad forms of life, with a generosity that we may never fully measure or understand. We are grateful too for the unnumbered processes within us, which we do not have to control, but which, of their own accord, unconsciously work together in harmony to make possible our lives. All unseen, the goodness of the air blesses every cell and fibre of our bodies, while silently our blood circulates through our veins. Food strengthens us, and water, so humble and precious and clean, daily bestows its vital blessings. We remind ourselves that we are part of the ceaseless web of life, part of the harmony in the eternal song of praise. We resolve not to break, through stupidity, carelessness, or greed, the lovely and delicate strands of life's web, not to bring discord and ugliness into the music of life.
Thank you, Ben. That was wonderful. Much appreciated. Okay, and we are now going to have a musical interlude, and David is going to perform for us. Thank you, David.
Thank you. This is a country and western tune dating back to the last century, quite early in the last century, made famous by the Carter family and a lady called Ma Carter, who was the leader of the group at the time. And she was one of the pioneers of this style of guitar playing called flat picking. Its tentative relation to summer and spring is that it's called Wildwood Flower. So we'll give it. I'll try and do it justice. Wildwood Flower. Thank you.
Thank you, David. That was lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. So we are now going to have our second reading, and this is a poem. It's The Feeling of Spring by Sakutaru Hajiwata, read by Diana Bebby.
This is a poem by a Japanese poet called Hagiwara Sakutaro, who was born in 1886 and died in 1942. And he's sometimes known as the father of modern colloquial poetry in Japan. And this is called Feeling of Spring. Do bear in mind it's obviously a translation. I think Japanese is probably even more beautiful. The Feeling of Spring. It is like the odour of French cigarette tar. My mind is in a trance as I smell the odour. The feeling of the beautiful, sad, and variously pervaded sky, the chirping of little birds, cold and silvery. The joy at the coming of spring is like the sound of a flute that plays on the life of everyone. Rare flowers waver by the country lane. A tune spreads through the heavy, rain-wet air. There too is heard a distressed woman's weeping, and spring seems to be softly swelling. When spring is here, deep in the mountain forests, inside the rotten stumps like wriggling earthworms. My soul sprouts out mushrooms one after another, toadstools, snake stools, red champignon and the like. Those mushrooms, with strange colour and odour, drearily stand smelling all day long. Spring is coming, spring is coming. The joy at the coming of spring is like the sound of a flute that plays on the life of everyone. Here, there, mushrooms, toadstools, one following another, or some kind of red champignon that grow in the bush shades, faintly glimmering.
So, this is by me, our third reading, sometimes cruel and sometimes kind. One member of our congregation commented that it's unusual to have the spring miscellany this late in the year, as it's traditionally in March or April. That's true, although at the same time, there are two ways of measuring when spring runs from and to. If you go by the astronomical way of measuring, which is based upon the position of the Earth in relation to the Sun, spring 2021 started on the date of the spring equinox, when the Sun passes over the Earth's equator. That was on March the 20th this year, and so spring will end on June 21st, which is when the Sun reaches the most northerly point in the sky, which is also known as the summer solstice. If you go by the meteorological system of measuring, which is based on the annual temperature cycle and the 12-month calendar, each season begins on the first of a particular month and lasts for 3 months. So spring begins on the 1st of March and summer on the 1st of June. So either way, we're still just within the period of time marked spring, and the weather until recently, pretty much until today and yesterday, has been a bit more reminiscent of February in a really bad mood. So I feel justified in sticking the spring miscellany service in at the end of May. Part of the reason we like to have our spring miscellany early, I think, is because spring is traditionally seen as the season of hope. The Christian festival of Easter traditionally marks the triumph of hope, faith, and love over the evil and sorrow marked by Good Friday. The pagan festivals of Imbolc in February, Ostara at the spring equinox, and Beltane in May, Beltane is halfway between Ostara and the summer solstice, are all festivals of joy. Imbolc celebrates the first signs of spring, snowdrops and lambs. Ostara celebrates the returning warmth of the spring sun, and Beltane is the festival of fire and fertility. Other festivals held in spring include the Hindu festival of Holi, marked by bonfires and people daubing bright colours on each other, Songkran in Thailand, when people enjoy a giant water fight to mark the start of the Thai New Year. Japan has cherry blossom festivals, and Zoroastrians celebrate the start of the new year in March, representing the victory of light over the force of darkness. But what about when spring isn't so hopeful? T.S. Eliot famously opens his poem, The Wastelands, with the ringing lines, "April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm, covering earth in forgetful snow, feeding a little life with dried tubers." Or to quote Charles Fink, who is the songwriter for the band Noah and the Whale, writing about the first spring he experienced without the partner he had split up with the autumn before. Spring can be the cruelest of months, but bringing in your life. We promise so much, like the pledge that you gave when you said you'd always love me, but we both know by autumn you're like the colour of leaves. It's one thing to be miserable in the depths of winter when all around you is asleep or dead, and the sun doesn't rise till 8 in the morning, then sinks back under the horizon at about 3:30. It's another to be unhappy when the sun is shining, the bluebells are sticking their heads up, and the ducklings and goslings just won't stop splashing about on the pond. Perhaps that's when we need the other side of spring. The days when the sky is grey, the wind rips the washing off the line, and the rain howls in off the North Sea until it feels like you'd be drier if you were standing in the sea itself. When every plan to meet friends in the pub outdoor car park has to be caveated with, assuming the weather's not too bad and no one's tested positive. And underlying it all, the slow, sad drumbeat of the knowledge that when we do gather once more in person, some faces will not be seen again. 2 weeks ago, my friend Nick died from cancer. We knew it was coming, but he was being considered for a final round of chemotherapy with a prognosis of another 2 to 3 months, when I got the phone call at 9:45 in the evening to tell me he'd died that afternoon. The day after, my mum and I went for a walk along the canal near Marsden in Yorkshire. Like many places in the Yorkshire Dales, Marsden looks striking in its valley setting when the grey skies loom over the moors, which is good because that does happen a lot. We walked along the towpath of the canal, with the rain pattering off the willow leaves and the occasional quiet moorhen darting in and out of the banks. I thought of the bike rides Nick and I and our friends had taken through the dales and moors over the years, sometimes in weather that was even worse, and felt obscurely comforted. Sometimes things can't be fixed. Alongside the sunlight and growth of spring, we need the rainy days, the stillness, and the sad, quiet acknowledgement that some things just have to be endured. I'm reminded of the tribute paid to David Arthur from Wakefield Westgate Unitarians by someone on the UK Unitarians page, who commented that her abiding memory of David was of the time when, for various reasons, she was feeling overwhelmed whilst at the General Assembly meetings in Birmingham and burst out crying. David walked over calmly, sat down beside her, and never said a word until she had finished crying and was feeling better. He smiled, he stood up and walked away. To return to Frank Walker, from whom we heard a little earlier, later on in the book I took that passage from, he wrote, "When we bring these things to mind, the web of life, we begin to understand that in the divine will is our peace, for we sense that the love that rises so falteringly in us is linked to the love that moves the sun and other stars. At the same time as we behold a vision of glory, we are ashamed of our failures and sins. We have the gift of awareness. We know when we have done wrong, missed the mark, accidentally strengthened the power of evil. So we pray for the cleansing, healing strength of goodwill, that our powers of thought, imagination, and speech may be well used. We pray for the power to communicate, not in words alone, but in life. We have messages to give, welling up from the depths of our lives, living words that only we can speak, loving deeds that only we can do. Grant above all that our communications may be like the sowing of seeds in spring, and that those who receive them may look to a fine harvest." And to quote Charlie Fink, in the final song of the album he wrote, The First Days of Spring, the song is called Blue Skies Are Coming. This is the song for anyone with a broken heart. This is a song for anyone who can't get out of bed. I'll do anything to be happy because blue skies are coming, but I know that it's hard. But blue skies are coming. And let's hope that blue skies lie ahead for all of us. And I now do have a special notice. I mentioned earlier that there's a cause. It's a good thing to think about how we as a community might do a bit more social action and work to benefit our local community, as well as our work to support the spiritual lives of everyone who's part of Newcastle Unitarians. We're generally thinking about how best to do that, given the small size of our congregation. Suggestions for that are very welcome. One way that's been put forward is to support local causes. So we'd like to ask people to consider making a donation to GAIN, which is a charity supported by Brian Johnson. He's a former member of our congregation who also kindly built our new website for us. Brian writes, "I'm using my channel to promote a charity I've teamed up with called GAIN. They provide support to people with conditions like my own and similar autoimmune conditions. Here's a bit about them from their website. Receiving a diagnosis of Guillain-Barré syndrome, or CIDP, chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, can be a terrifying and isolating experience, bringing with it many questions and an uncertain future. GAIN is the only organisation dedicated to helping people affected by these conditions in the UK and Ireland. We're here to offer the information and help needed to support those affected by these conditions through this difficult time. Brian also writes, I've launched a Just Giving page for my fundraising for the charity, and I'm going to start to promote this in my videos, which I do on YouTube. Perhaps the congregation might consider making a donation to this charity, and I'm going to put the link in the chat and I'll send it around by email as well. He also adds, please note that when I'm on the internet, I tend to use the name Geordie, not my own name. So this is the name you'll see if you visit this page. So if you visit it and it doesn't say Brian Johnson, but Geordie, that's why. So I'd just like to ask everyone present to consider if you might be able to donate to GAIN following the service. We are, as a congregation, going to make a donation, and I'm donating half of my service fee. So I will just put the details into the chat. And we're now about to have our final reading. This is the poem Today by Billy Collins, read by Jean Reeve, and thank you to Billy Collins for giving us permission to use his poem.
Today by Billy Collins. If ever there were a spring day so perfect, so uplifted by a warm intermittent breeze that it made you want to throw open all the windows in the house and unlatch the door to the canary's cage, indeed rip the little door from its jamb. A day when the cool brick paths and the garden bursting with peonies seemed so etched in sunlight that you felt like taking a hammer to the glass paperweight on the living room end table, releasing the inhabitants from their snow-covered cottage so they could walk out holding hands and squinting into this larger dome of blue and white. Well, today is just that kind of day.
Thank you very much indeed. That was brilliantly read. And we're now going to have our final hymn, which is a familiar one for all of us. It's May the Road Rise With You. As ever, we repeat the same verse, but with a slightly different final line at the end in the second verse. And now our closing words. These are by Amy Zucker Morgenstern. First, let me put out our chalice. We've put out the light of the chalice, but its enlightenment stays with us until we meet once more. And here is a blessing of darkness and light. Delicate branches at night surround the light of the moon. Blessed is the dark, in which our dreams stir and are revealed. Blessed is the dark of earth, where seeds come to life. Blessed are the depths of ocean, where no light shimmers, the womb of all earthly life. Blessed is the light into which we awake, the light that sparkles on the waters, that calls the tree forth from the seed and calls the shadow forth from the tree. Blessed are we as we move through darkness and through light. May it be so.